Hello, and welcome to Books and Bubbles, a podcast where we talk about our current book obsessions while drinking tasty drinks themed to our books. I'm Bethany.
I'm Tawny.
I'm Sarah.
I'm Maggie.
And I'm Paige.
And we thought what better way to start our podcast than with Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, because just like the rest of the bookish community, we are very anxiously awaiting the release of Onyx Storm in January. So without further ado, Maggie is going to introduce our first drink.
All right, so for our first bubble break, I decided I was going to make a dark and stormy because it felt, a little on brand. Dark shadows, stormy lightning, So go ahead, give it a sip, and tell me what you think.
Cheers.
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 Cute. All right, so fun fact, I'm not a bartender, so let's not come for me with how these drinks.
It's tasty though.
This is not spoiler free. So if you're interested in Fourth Wing or curious about Fourth Wing, maybe don't start with this because I'm about to drop a heavy spoiler for Iron Flame right now. So while we're sipping, ladies, at the end of Iron Flame, we all know that Xaden decides to turn to save Violet, is his reasoning. My question for you, we're all in healthy, loving relationships. Would you turn venom for your partner?
Yeah.
As a married girly pop, I gotta say,
Yeah.
See, I don't know because I don't think that Brandon would want me to. At the end of the day, I think I would. I don't think I'd be able to not, but I think it would. I mean, the same thing that Violet's going through. It would break him. He wouldn't want me to, and I don't think I would be able to
none of our
respect his
partners would
decision.
probably want us to.
No.
Yeah.
In the moment, you would have to. So
Right.
your partner's dying, so
Do you think that
Yeah.
Violet would have done the same thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah.
Because
I think so,
it wouldn't just be about Xaden too. It would be about Andarna and
Yeah.
Taryn
Mhm.
and Rhianna and all of her friends.
Yeah.
And Xaden probably at the first of that. But I think she's more altruistic and cares more about the whole. And I think Xaden is more of a selfish character. So drop a little bombshell there. What's your answer?
All right. My answer?
Yeah.
I mean, I
That's
like
the group.
Tyler. No, I'm just kidding. Of course, Tyler, I would turn venom for you. Yeah, I think I probably would too, because I do feel like it would be that thing he doesn't want me to, but I'm not just gonna let him die.
Yeah. I feel like Sean would be okay, let's find a cure for it then.
Yeah, especially because it's not you're just dying. There is a slower process. So
Mhm.
in the moment, it's of course I'm gonna do that. I'm not
Right.
trading my life for his, even though you kind of eventually are.
Yeah.
Right. It's
I
not
agree.
instant.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seemed like a really heavy thing, and everyone was like, "No," but it's what else was he actually going to do though?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Unless we think that it wasn't necessary, but it seemed pretty necessary.
Pretty necessary.
Yeah, I don't think he did it for fun. So
Let me just try something a little wild.
He was in the middle of a war. I don't think he made
Tensions
that
are
decision.
high.
Hero moment.
Yeah.
He's let me just be a main character for a minute.
We know that Xaden turned venom, and there's a lot to go with that though. So even though we're talking about the decision being with Violet in the moment and all of that, there's a lot more going on here because he's having these dreams and nightmares just like Violet, and it seems like he's really convinced that they're coming after him. So I'm really wondering what's going on in the background that we're not getting from Xaden's POV, because he's been in a couple other venom attacks that we haven't seen, and then we just hear about it after the fact, and he took out another venom that I think Bodhi or Garrick kind of called him out for in front of Violet, and he was thanks for that. And it seems like he's got some kind of connection and knows that this guy's coming after him. So I gotta believe that there's just more going on there that we don't know about, and I'm hoping that maybe we get some kind of bonus chapters after Onyx Storm comes out.
Mm-hmm. We also know that Xaden does hide things from Violet because he wants to protect her. So
He'll tell her anything. She just has to know to ask. She's got to know.
Anyway, with that horrible communication that they have, we know that there's probably things, I agree, there's things that are missing from seeing things through Violet's point of view because Xaden doesn't tell her everything, especially things, it seems when it comes to the venom and the sage. Because I wonder if, I don't know, just a theory I've had is I wonder if the venom have their own prophecy of, these two people in Andarna are the reason that will take them down. So they're trying to get to them before they realize their power. The sage, that seems like that'd be a prophecy sort of kind of vibe.
Yeah, especially where it's like, you've got a silver one and a golden one.
Yeah.
And, I don't know, an onyx one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
no,
it seems
it's-
like Sigale and Taryn know a lot more than they let on.
Yeah. And we'll get into a bunch of that later on. We also have to remember that he's taking over whatever his dad's war was. So he's got, this whole chest that he knew about that was like the dad's like most prized possession and things like that. So
Mhm.
I don't know how far back Xaden's ties with the Venin go and what all he's witnessed and everything, because I don't think Ressin was the first time he ever dealt with them either, necessarily. They
No.
sound like they identify them,
Mhm.
but under no circumstance do I think that it was a surprise. And that was also that same sage that was there. Was he after Xaden the whole time?
Mhm.
Well, actually, in Fourth Wing, when Violet catches all the marked ones underneath the tree, I don't even remember if we know the person's name, but they specifically asked, they're like, what about battle brief? I'm kind of struggling with it. And Xaden says, keep what you know, but repeat what they tell you. So I do think that they've all known about the Venin for...
I know they've all known about them for a while, but I don't think that that was the first time that Xaden's ever actually dealt with one,
Mhm.
I guess is what I'm saying.
Mm.
And
I think it's not his first
I have a hard
encounter.
time believing that it's a coincidence that that particular sage ended up at Ressin, and he's saying they're after me. So it really makes me wonder what's going on there. We also know that there was like, a lure, so... I don't know. We'll get into more of that stuff later, too. But I think there's a lot going on here with him being Venin. We've also got Jack Barlow, though, who's Venin. I think the biggest thing that I'm trying to wrap my head around is, like, when did he become Venin? Because
I think he was it the whole time.
I think he was, too.
I think he was planted in Basgiath to take out Violet.
Yes.
Because he had an instant hate for her. Like,
Yeah.
it was, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And he knew who she was, and he was just so, like...
And he mentioned her being fragile before he even talked to her for the first time. I think it
Right.
happened, like, right around the parapet.
Yeah, and I get, like, looking at her and, like, her, she's smaller than everyone else and stuff, but it's like...
He said, like, they say you're breakable, something like that.
Yeah.
I think when, but it seems like maybe everybody's in agreement. Everybody thinks it was before. Okay, great. That's awesome. The part that was kind of interesting, too, like with Nolan's mending him and, mending his soul, whatever, there's that moment where he saves Violet. And he says that he doesn't know who it was when he did it, but did he save her because the Venin want her? Or, like, was that actually just an accident that he saved her? Because he seems to want to kill her throughout.
Mhm.
But he's also Venin and reports to them. So, like, I don't understand which side he's playing on. Because at first he was there to kill her, and then they wanted her. And I think it maybe changed just after her signet manifested. Because it seemed to be, like, from killing her to saving her, and then he revealed himself.
Yeah.
So, it seems like he's just 100% planted under instructions.
Yeah, I could see that. The interesting thing to me, though, is that Nolan was talking about trying to mend a soul. And I'm wondering how much of that you're saying that, like, was an act versus how much of it was actually, like, oh, now my soul's healing,
Yeah.
wrenched and grew 2.5 heart sizes or whatever.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wanted to think that, but then
Yeah, I wanted-
Brandon, like my boyfriend, he ended up being like, no, it's because he was trying to save him for the minute. I was like, duh.
That
Like,
makes sense.
That makes so much
because
more sense
She
to
was
me.
like not
Yeah.
really useful at the beginning when he was just trying to kill her off, and so it makes sense that like she's not useful to them, but they know she could be dangerous in the future. So that, I feel like it would make sense for them to just kill her. But then now that she like has her powers and is like learning them, she'd be such a valuable asset to them.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
kind of
'cause
like
it
that
seemed
theory.
The
Yeah.
sage wants Violet for her
Mhm.
power.
Yes.
He doesn't just want her dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why won't he die?
Who?
Jack.
Because he's been.
Didn't they kill him at the end of the book? Isn't he dead now? Like dead?
No.
Is he?
No.
I thought. I
Don't
thought-
you remember?
No.
Like, he's all, like, he calls Xaden his brother.
Yeah.
like,
Sad.
He doesn't
Horrifying.
die. Why won't he die?
Because he's too vital to the plot.
Like, he got
First
crushed.
book was
at-
Chef's Kiss.
Oh,
Yeah, but he's-
dragon.
you
He
can-
didn't.
He
Yeah.
killed
Oh.
his dragon.
Yeah.
Because
I
he's
remember.
been and he broke the bond.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but then
Yeah.
it, like, acted like he was gonna die. And I was like, okay, there's no way he...
Well, Jack got like
Did.
crushed by. Didn't she like lightning strike a?
Yeah, like
A
a whole
mountain.
mountain,
The mountain
fell
fell
on
on
him.
him.
Yeah, so he
Yeah.
should be dead. But you think it's just because he's Venom that he's fine?
Well, I think Nolan.
Oh, no, he's-
resurrected.
yeah.
him
Well,
as
Nolan,
Dragon.
yeah.
but then he killed his dragon. It showed him, like, starting to become weak.
I think it's
Didn't
just
die
because he's
again.
Venom, and I think
Yeah.
they just have the ability. Like, he's now channeling from the earth,
Earth,
and
so-
at the time, the Wardstone was down. Like, it was instant. Those words were lifted as Bade bled out. So I can see where he'd have that moment where maybe like things don't look so hot for you, but now you can channel. And I think he just saved himself right there. Maybe.
I guess I do have another theory about him. Is I don't know if he was Venom the whole time, but I would believe that he was planted to be like an assassin. But I definitely think he was Venom sometime after he got struck by lightning and fell off the mountain. He might have tried to save himself then and just drew too much power, and then somehow found the venom throughout that.
Well, he does say he says that he turned after threshing, but I think he was Venom the whole time too.
Yeah, I go back.
I
and
know,
forth.
that's why it's like, it's hard because the more you think about it, the more you doubt yourself.
Yeah.
But I think I go more with the whole time because I think that takes us to our third, like, known Venom here. And that's the other assassin that shows up in Iron Flame with red rings around his eyes. I mean, she doesn't end up like identifying him as a Venom, but I think it was pretty obvious that that guy was Venom. And he was planted like day one, like same thing. I don't even think they'd made it to threshing at that point. That was really early on.
That was like during their first sparring day where they
Assessment day.
Assessment day, yes.
Yeah.
So like evaluation day.
There's no way, like, and just like the fact that they were like mini Jack Barlow, it's like it just makes me think he was Venom the whole time.
It's crazy. Like, I guess we're in an age where like phones, you can find a picture of anyone anywhere, but he just didn't know who Violet was, so he killed the wrong person.
I have a straight up theory on that guy, actually. So, I noticed something. In Fourth Wing, Jack Barlow throws some random cadet off the side. And then we know that this, like, mini Jack Barlow also throws somebody off the parapet.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
That got me thinking. I was wondering if somehow the Venom are, like, weeding out the best Gaiath candidates on the parapet and, like, sacrificing them off the side, or just adding to their army somehow by like throwing them off the edge. They land in the water, maybe they're not quite dead, and there's some other Venom over there like, hey,
I'll save you,
but do you want to live, because I got secret sauce in the ground. And like maybe that's how they're like, I don't know, I just couldn't help but notice that they both did it for no other reason other than just like, yeah,
like other than just being cruel.
Yeah, so I was like, I wonder if there's something else going on here.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of forgot that he was like described as a mini Jack Barlow.
Who else is on your Venom list? Because I think those are the only three that I would say are like pretty for sure. And then obviously like, you know, the Sage, and we've got the known Venom.
Yeah.
But as far as characters go, like, who are you suspicious of and why?
I feel like one of Violet's parents has to be Venom.
Ooh.
I feel like just has to be. I don't know.
Tell me why.
There's like so many different theories on the hair, but one of the ones I've seen is that her hair is like, because she's like was immune to being Venom because one of her parents was Venom. That's the Venom like coming out or something. That was something I saw. I feel like it would make sense for Violet's mom to have been not Venom until she got really sick, and then it described her mom like getting super ill while she was pregnant, and so she could have became Venom to heal herself to be able to save her daughter. So I feel like it could be her mom, or it could have been her dad, because there's that one like, top of the chapter, I forget where it is in Iron Flame, but it's towards the end of the book, where it has somebody saying that Violet's mom was trying to find a cure to being Venom. So I feel like that would be a reason why, because she really loved her husband, obviously, so trying to cure her husband would be a perfect reason to be looking into that.
That's so interesting.
Or like maybe she was trying to find a cure for herself, like if she was Venom, because at the top of one of the chapters in Iron Flame, I also think it was towards the end, she said that like she would do anything to save her kids.
Yes, that's so true too. I just found the little blurb though. It says, "We have tried every method we know of, as you requested. There is no cure. There is only control." And that's from Lieutenant Nolan to General Lilith Sorngill. So I feel like there was a reason that she was looking into that, like either for herself or for her husband.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I would agree with Lilith for sure. I remember there was one thing back in Fourth Wing where Violet got super scared because she like saw her mom really tired with like the bloodshot eyes.
Oh,
do you remember that?
Yes.
And like everyone had to calm her down because she thought her mom was a Venom. And then she's like, you need to stop reading all those fairy tales and stuff. But like her mom had just gotten back from like fighting or on the front lines, and
maybe she was actually a Venom.
Yeah.
See, I feel like you gave me fuel for my other theory, so this is great.
Well, I think, like, I don't know, it seems like there's a big issue with like, power and taking too much with this book. And I would say any of the generals would be, because I don't remember who the general was, but the one with the dragon with the missing eye.
Varish. He's on my list.
Yes, he's
Yes.
on my list as well.
For
Yeah.
sure.
100%.
sure.
And he was
100%.
killed with a venom blade. That's the only way.
Real quick, one more thing on her mom, though. I feel like we might get some answers for that when she gets, like, to clear out her things. Because you know how they have to clear out their stuff and they're supposed to burn it.
Yeah.
So I feel like that'd be a really
Oh.
fun way to, like, discover some secrets there.
Oh, I
so I
didn't
kind of
think
hope
about
we, like,
that.
learn it from that.
I hope they go through her whole office.
Same.
I want them to go through her whole office, and I want to know all about it.
Same.
Same.
Yeah.
I
So,
wouldn't-
Barish?
Varish.
Varish.
100%.
Bearish.
Yeah. I mean, how could he not be? And I
Yeah.
think there's something to be
And-
said for... No, go ahead.
If he's not, though, he's just a cruel, cruel person.
No, I
Yeah.
think he 100% is. And I think when he was like spazzing over Solus almost dying from Terran, I think it was because he knew
He get caught.
He wouldn't die.
he wouldn't die. I think he knew he'd be like, oh, frick. I'm going to be exposed if you kill my dragon and I don't die.
What's up with, because, like, those were orange dragons, right?
I was just going to
Yes,
say, like,
yeah.
what's up with the orange dragon
Why is it
theory?
always the orange dragons?
Yeah.
But we know
We'll
who
get into
else
that a little bit.
So Violet didn't end up killing his dragon when they were in the cave. So
And
that other-
Darna did.
And Darna
Oh,
killed.
right.
Layer.
yes.
Yep.
I wish I hadn't done that. Oh, no. I need a drink.
Oh, no, I need to forget.
Yes, I forgot. I remembered that she threw the dagger in his eye, the other eye.
Yeah.
Because Terran took the first one, so I was like, oh,
And then Darna poisoned him
yes.
with her scorpion tail. She went,
Yes.
Stab.
Yeah. I think that kind of brings us into, like, I'm super suspicious of, what is he? Is he General Atos? He's not a general. What
He's
is he?
Aid Atos.
Yeah. Atos' dad.
Yeah.
What's
What's his name?
Dane's dad?
Yeah, Dane's
Yeah,
dad.
Dane's dead.
I can't
I don't-
remember. I just
no
think
idea.
of him as Atos.
Mr.
I think he
Atos.
might be I think he is General Atos.
Okay.
Because I think they become generals. I don't know. I don't know their hierarchy for their...
I can't remember.
I mean, he could very well be a general, but
Yeah.
we think he's Venet.
So
Yeah.
I'm very suspicious of Dane's dad, like,
Mhm.
being Venom, because everything that went on with all of that stuff in Resin was crazy. And we know that there was a lure there. We also know that that missive was there. And this is also where, all right, I'm just going to put the Atoses together. I'm a little suspicious of Dane. I can't convince myself 100% that he's like Venom, but I think that he knows more
Oh,
than
definitely.
like he lets on, whether or not he realizes it. Because in that missive, it said that they were supposed to like meet up at the new Fourth Wing headquarters after War Games at whatever it was. It started with an E.
Yeah.
And when they were doing all the War Games instructions, they told the squad leaders that they could pick where they wanted to go. And then the wing leaders were assigned. So they happened to set up the new headquarters that's already been pre-planned in the missive at the spot where Dane chose to set up his squad in the moment. It tells me that there's obviously a conversation that happened with his dad that influenced him to choose that spot. So the whole I'll miss you thing, I'm really not sure what all he knew was going to happen. And
Yeah.
I mean, in that moment, I think he was really hurt. So I do wonder if maybe Dane started down that path, and then once he saw what was actually happening, like, he's changing. I'm really suspicious of Dane, but I don't want to be. I don't want him to be Venom. I want it to just not be that.
I don't really believe that he's Venom, but I would believe that he does know more. I believe he's easily influenced. I believe he's very lawful and just cares about doing things right and rising to the ranks of, like, you know, he's got to be as good as his dad kind of thing. That's how I feel about it. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not the biggest fan of Dane's characters because he kind of is a little bit of a pity me.
I've got so much hope for Dane. I really like him. But I don't at the same time. Like, he's the best in the worst.
Yeah,
He's so
he was
annoying.
making a comeback at the end of
Yeah.
Iron
He has
Flame.
his moments.
Like that when Varish was torturing her, that Dane wouldn't read her
Yeah.
memories.
Yeah.
That was a big moment, like a big redemption for
Huge,
me.
Yeah.
huge.
Yep.
Well, I don't know if that was a redemption or that was just his character because he's very lawful. And he doesn't just...
Well, but he's done it to her without, like...
yeah, but like that's more him being selfish. But he's like, hey, you're not supposed to torture the other students like this. This is wrong. I think that more
That's fair.
than him redeeming himself kind of thing. It's more like, I don't know.
I think that Violet is just like a weak spot for him.
Yeah, that too.
I wonder, because Varys uses Violet to influence Dane all the time. So I wonder if that's his weakness.
I think it is because they were friends for like over 10 years.
Yeah.
Like they
They
literally
were
grew up
childhood
together.
friends.
And like towards the end of Iron Flame, when they were still trying to, I mean, they're still in the process of like mending whatever friendship they had left. I think it really showed there too.
Yeah. I don't know. There's just so many spots where I'm just like, I'm still suspicious though. Like, I think he could be maybe somehow a little bit Venom, but still have his heart in the right place. And I'm not sure, but he's got to know more of what's going on than he thinks, because his dad, I think, is a Venom. And they were saying that those lures were Navarian made, and there's got to be more. Like, I just don't know who else is, you know, at Beskaya that is Venom and actively like trying to bring him in, because Jack Barlow was really obvious, Varys was very obvious, Ados is very obvious.
I don't think Dane would have joined the resistance either unless he felt betrayed by people at Beskaya.
Yeah.
Because he would have stuck it out, I think. He would have just been like, no, this is my home, this is my country. He feels more like that, kind of. But then he's like, oh.
But he also would have followed Violet, so I feel
I don't think so, because I really don't.
I think he's too much of a rule follower.
Yeah.
If he wasn't down there, I don't think he would have followed them out.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I can
Because I don't think he's really like infatuated, like puppy kind of thing. Because like he chose the rules over Violet multiple times.
Yeah, you know what? I 100% agree with you now. Okay.
That is true. Yeah.
No, because
He always chose
this
the
is
rules
my
over Violet.
like most. This is what irritates me about Dane, though, is he's 100% capable of breaking the rules when it comes to.
Amber.
He's completely fine breaking the rules when it comes to her, because he was clearly like romantically involved with her, and she's a year ahead. So he was sleeping with somebody that was a year ahead and had no problem breaking the rule for her. He also said that he saved her ass at threshing. So, Dane, you suck. And, you're rule following and this and that, but I do think that his weak spot is Violet, and I think that that's what is going to get him to start breaking the rules when it counts. So I think this is going to be like a really good character arc for him. I just hope we get to know all the stuff that he knows. I don't know if it's going to come up, and I'm really, really curious, because for a minute there, I was really, really thinking he was a Venom. I think that Dos's dad is definitely, if he's not Venom, he's just completely easily manipulated, because I think Varys could have just been pulling his strings the whole time, but he's definitely Venom.
I think the reason why Violet might be his weak spot is because we know that that's Varys' signet, is that he can find weaknesses, which is horrifying, by the way. And he immediately starts to try and manipulate Dane by being like, you can find out why you're not good enough, what he does that you don't have, and blah, blah, blah. But you're right, he doesn't break the rules when it comes to Violet, which is weird.
Does anybody else have anyone on their list?
Has anyone had suspicions on either Brennan or Mira? I just
Twice.
feel like everybody with an orange dragon is super sus, except for like Brennan. So I feel like maybe just Brennan's just playing everybody, and he is just actually
Why is
Brennan.
he the odd one out?
I just feel weird vibes. Both him and Mira, I feel like we don't get to know enough to really love their characters. And Mira, especially, Violet hasn't seen for a long time until she sees her. And I feel like she just jumps right into like, yay, we're back to being like sisters. And there's like so many years that went by, or however long it was, that I'm like, what could have happened during that time? Like, do I trust this person? I don't know. I just get weird vibes from
What's
her.
changed?
Yeah.
Yeah, I never thought about Mira at all, actually.
I don't have actual proof or anything. I just have vibes.
Yeah.
You're just like not trusting
just
the
don't love her.
narrators.
All of the Soaring Gales are actually Venom.
Every single one.
Jack Barlow's love interest, I am also suspicious of whatever her motivations are, because there was like a conversation that they had in Battle Brief at one point where she was basically like, let's just raid the villages or start killing people. And they're like, excuse me, do you know where you are? Like, and
I wish I remembered her
it's
name.
somebody that corrects her, and I can't remember who it is. So I'll
I thought it was Dane, but maybe I'm wrong.
I think you're right, and that's where it's like there's so many little things that just make me think that Dane knows too much. I don't know.
I don't think that Dane's Venom, but I do think they could use Dane for his signet power, so he does just know more, but since people don't know his signet, he doesn't actually tell people what he knows. Not that he could in the first place, but
That's a really good point.
like people don't know what his signet is. Only
That's
Violet
true.
knew what his signet was. Because it said like in Iron Flame when they were trying to like rally everybody together. Dane started spewing everything after he read Jack Barlow's mind, technically, I guess. So I don't know. I
think that might have just hit the nail on the head.
he might just
actually.
know a lot.
I think, yeah.
Less
But
sus of him now.
what are you doing right now, though? Like, because you do know stuff. And I get that you're, like, a rule follower. And maybe that's all it is, and that's why he's not sharing the information that he has. But at what point is he going to start talking? Because I need a whole Dane novella for whatever this
I
kid's
would
been
love
through.
that. That would be amazing.
Please?
Unless it's just, as long as it's not just like angsty, like, oh my god, Violet doesn't love me.
That would be super annoying.
I don't
I don't
it
think
would
so.
be. I
It'll
think
be
it
all
would
like,
be
Amber, I'll do anything for her. Let me break the rules. And then we get his bad boy side. No.
I don't think he's possible of
Wait.
being a bad boy.
No,
I
he's
don't think
not.
so either.
Is Dane kind
isn't.
of hot all of a sudden?
No. No, Dane's.
I have one tiny other thing with Mira that I
Yeah.
wrote down is that I don't think she was accounted for in the final battle, unless I'm just wrong about that. Like, I don't think she's in it. I feel like
I thought that she was with.
She was in the back.
She was with the
was.
mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was with General Sorengil because she was like your signet and my signet. Like she was telling her mom that Xaden needed to be with Violet because they work well together, and that she should be with her because she can produce wards now.
okay. Did we see her in the actual battle or just like before?
I
talking
think
through?
it's.
I thought
we
they
see her
talked
at one
about it.
point
Okay,
because
okay.
Violet ends up, I think, looking over and she's
Okay,
like,
maybe I
"Oh,"
just
and then
missed
they
it then.
have it because she can't keep her eyes on her own paper. I'm sorry, it was really annoying while I was reading. I was like, "Stop it!" Taryn did not
Yeah,
yell at her enough.
Yeah. She was like all over messing up the like
It did make
strategy
it- I
and like
understood
the
why
planning.
they did it. It definitely like it needed to happen. That way you understood what was going on with everything. But I was just like, oh my gosh, girl, focus and
You're gonna
quit
get
going
killed.
after these wyvern. Focus. I was getting really upset about that the whole time.
I will say, slight side note, I love the Terran and Andarna sass throughout
Yes.
both the books. That
Yes.
was, I love that.
I like the grumpy man more than like the teenage angst a little bit more, but
Yeah.
I do love it.
Yes.
I love when Taryn had to keep saying that they don't eat their allies.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
they made it the top of the thing.
Yes, it was
Yeah.
what did they do? It was like an addendum to the Book of Brennan or something.
Yeah.
It was adorable. I've got one more that I think is, I don't know, maybe I go too far with this one, but I definitely think that Naolin, Taryn's first rider, is Venom.
Oh, 100%.
Okay,
yes,
great.
No, I am all in on that. Theory.
Okay,
Yep.
yes. I have gone maybe too far with this theory.
Probably same.
But I think he might also be the sage. And I also think that might have something to do with Violet having these dreams and everything that's going on there.
Oh, maybe like he's still a little bit attached to Terran.
I don't know, but like whatever they do with the bond or whatever happened there, I also think, like, you know, obviously there's something going on between him and Brennan. There's a love interest there, or at least it's been heavily implied.
For sure.
The part that I can't quite figure out is if he was maybe already Venom or if he turned in that moment. I want to believe he turned in that
I think
moment.
they did too.
Yeah.
But we also have stuff in Book of Brennan about, I think he warns about people and their power and this and that. And I think he's referring to Naolin in the note. I can't remember exactly what was said.
I remember
Yeah, he
that.
says like you're basically something about like you'll want more power or you get power
Yeah.
hungry.
Which makes me just wonder, was he already struggling with it, like when they were in the quadrant? But I don't know if he wrote the Book of Brennan just while he was already in service or if he wrote it when he was in the quadrant. So that's the only part that kind of throws
Yeah.
me off with that. But we also know that Brennan has a rune scar on his
He
hand.
does.
Mhm.
And we also know that the wyvern, you know, have the runes. And we also know that runes have to be like, you know, pushed into something to like temper it, right? I think Brennan's not, like, he's been resurrected, but I think Brennan's made.
Made into venom.
Like, made by the venom. Like, 'cause that's what they talk about with the wyvern, that the wyvern are made. I think Brennan could be
Oh.
made. They also talk about, you know, like, the runes are specific for thing they're supposed to do. So,
He's like a reanimation.
maybe, or is he Naolin? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, something could be going on there. Like, I think Brennan is made, and I think that's why we're, like, suspicious of him. Something's going on with that. I can't tell if he's actually Venom or not, but I
Yeah.
think Naolin 100% was, and I think he could be the sage.
Does
like-
Brennan's dragon ever show up? Any of the books?
Yeah.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
Marb.
Marb, yes. Yep.
Who's also orange.
Yep.
I feel like it's so strongly suggested that Naolin is Venom because it talks about how Naolin wasn't capable of saving Brennan on his own, even if he burnt out and killed himself over it. And Brennan never says that he actually dies. He says Naolin didn't fail, but it cost him everything. And so I feel like costume everything,
Yeah.
it wants you to just think, oh, he's dead. But I feel like he lost his soul. Like,
Yeah.
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 And that's the part that gets me with the runes too, because the Venin have runes and Bezgaeth didn't. So
No, they were built on runes, weren't they?
They were, but like runes weren't being taught at Bezgaeth anyway.
Right.
So where did he learn how to do that if that is where Brennan got it?
Well, like
So that's where it's like, was he already Venin?
Well, no, Xaden's home province, they taught runes. Remember?
Oh yeah. Do we know where Naelin's from?
No.
Okay, so that could make sense then if he already knew runes.
If he
Yeah,
knows,
if
yeah.
he was from Tyrandor, that
Yeah.
would make sense. But I don't know. I think it's hard. It does, like saying it cost him everything though. It probably did just happen in that moment. But
Yeah, because I don't think that, like,
yeah, I guess he could already know runes. Plenty of people do, so that
Yeah.
doesn't have to be. That makes more sense. I didn't like the idea of it being,
yeah,
you know, before.
think that, like, oh, like, everyone who is Venin was evil from the start.
No.
Yeah.
It is an interesting parallel to Naelin and Brennan and what happened with Xaden and Violet.
Yeah.
So you could see that if they are like these love interests paralleling that, because we did just watch Xaden make that exact same decision to save Violet.
I don't know, but I think he's definitely a Venin.
I
Yeah.
agree. He's definitely alive. I feel like he's out there, and we're going to get him in book 3. I
Yeah.
feel.
Yep.
I'll be bummed if he's not the sage. I'm really hoping he's the
I do
sage.
too.
The only thing I could think of who might also be the sage is maybe either the original brother, he's just been alive forever,
From the folklore.
or a descendant of that brother.
Doesn't somebody call him a sage and he goes, "I'm not a sage, I'm a general," or something like that?
Yeah. So, but the one girl does say at one point, I think, on the back of the wyvern when she's, you know, talking to Violet, that she wants to take her to her sage, and then the other guy does say he's a general. So, I'm not sure if like they're just talking about like the same overall guy that wants them being the general, and then she was saying like, I'll bring you to my sage, and then I'll get praise, and they'll bring you to your general, like just a chain of command kind of thing.
I don't
The
know.
Venin are so
Well, remember
organized.
They are.
It
I
seemed like
know.
it. It's like they had like a Venin school. It seemed like.
Yeah. So definitely, you know, something going on there. But I'm really hoping Naelin's somehow doing something wild. Okay. I think Violet's Venin. And so Bethany actually helped me out with a little bit of the puzzle, I think, when you're saying that you think that Lilith was Venin. Because I think that what might have happened, like you were saying, like she's on the front lines, right? Getting in a fight. And we know that this poison exists that was used on Violet. One theory that I have is that I think the poison could turn you Venin, because they talk about the Venin's blood being black, and then Violet's blood turned black when
Yep.
she had the poison. So I think that maybe that was like the crazy fever that Mom got.
That's
She
what
was
I thought.
infected with a
I thought the same thing actually, that the mom didn't draw too much power, but she was infected somehow.
Yeah. So I think that she was turned Venin. And then I think Violet is just, you know, at that point they're sharing the same blood. So she's Venin too. And
Or some
her
hybrid.
hair being the way that it is, Jack Barlow, he's the one that tells her, oh yeah, like we've been here. We can still channel, just not the way you think we can. And it's in small increments and this and that. And I wonder if that's why her hair is the way it is. Maybe that's just whatever's happening for her channeling. And it's just, is she channeling from her own power? And that's why her hair is like light at the ends and she's containing it within herself and not actually draining from the world. And that's why Taryn knows who and what she is. She chose not to. And he talked with him about the whole, you've got so much power, this and that. She's like, I would never. And he goes, that's why we chose you. And they know that she's not going to because she has the capability and doesn't. I don't know. Like that seemed really.
Yeah, all throughout Iron Flame, they talk about Violet's like control and how. Who is it that calls her like, "Oh, your control"?
I think it's Felix.
Is it?
Like when he's talking about teaching her how to wield her signet differently.
Yeah, that's why I gave her
and
the
then he
rune
says
stone
that
and
she
stuff.
wielded Xaden with that too.
Interesting.
Yeah, she's got a lot of stuff going on. And that's also, you know, we know that Nolan was healing her for a long time. That same note, we've been trying to find something. He was her healer for years. So,
And then he says there is no cure, there's only control.
yeah.
Okay, I'm buying this theory.
And Violet's also got this neat little box that she puts things in when it becomes too much and she feels like she's losing control, like her crazy emotions or when she's angry and things like that. She puts them in the neat little box and then closes it up. And I feel like that's her little venom box. I don't know.
Venom box.
That's where she's keeping all her dirty secrets. We get the one chapter where we get the blurb at the top talking about the Venon's eyes and the levels and everything for what they are. And in that same chapter, there are no Venom, guys. However, Violet is getting on the mat with, I think, Catriona at that moment, and she says, I see red. Tell me why else we get a Venom snippet. Because, you know, it's always related to something in the chapter, it seems. It gives some kind of context. So if that's not screaming, hey, she's Venom, I don't know what is. I felt like that was like nail in the coffin. Texting Maggie, and I was like 100%.
Just a little bit devil's advocate. I see red is a very common.
Red was italicized. I
was
was
angry.
very, very...
Red was bolded, underlined, and italicized.
It's like, that's what they say when you're mad. Like, I see red.
That is true.
Like,
It is a thing. That's why she got away with it still sneaking by. But it was...
Okay.
I don't know. I'm convinced. You cannot tell me otherwise.
That's fine.
I'll die on this
I think it
hill.
wasn't italicized. I'd be like, yeah, maybe
Yeah.
not. But
Watch me like after Onyx Storm going, sorry guys.
Sorry, it was Dane Atos, actually.
I'll be so annoyed if it's Dane and I just talked myself out of it. No, it's definitely Violet
it'll
though.
be Violet, and you can just mic drop us at
Because
the
I would
beginning of
be-
our
really
Onyx
believe
Storm.
that-
I also have more evidence. Don't worry.
It's all right. I believe definitely for sure because of like something with the mom's fever. She was poisoned by something and made her very sick.
Yeah.
That had to affect Violet in some way. She's some weird hybrid.
Let's also remember that when Violet goes beyond the safety of the wards, she doesn't feel very well. I think it's because she can feel her ability to channel. And she's got this stuff going on that she's like, I don't like the way that makes my body feel. It's because you're Venom, girl, and now you can have access to these things. She also gets not feeling very well when she's holding the alloy-hilted daggers, which is the one thing that can kill Venom. So I think there's something to be said for a tummy ache. For a minute there, I was getting really suspicious of the dreams. I'm really excited to see what we learn about that.
Yeah.
Because I thought that there might be something with the Venom consciousness thing, like that they had a shared consciousness, but it sounds like that might just be with the creators and their wyvern. So I couldn't quite figure that out. I thought maybe that was what was happening with the dream walking at first, because
that'd be like a signet.
I don't think so. Brandon does. Brandon's convinced that that's her signet.
I like
But
it.
I like it too. I like it better than True Sayer, Rebecca.
I like
Me
the True
too.
Slayer thing actually, though. I think
No,
that's cool.
I think it's lame.
I think it's
We
so
already have one.
common. Yeah, I like that she's like badass and she's like, oh, the first lightning wielder in centuries, and then
Yeah.
it's like, and another truth sayer.
But in the dreams, what I thought was interesting about it, and I liked the idea of thinking it was this Venom consciousness, if this is how it works. I don't think it is. I can't tell. But she has a dream where they talk about taking down the wards. And then Jack Barlow, when he's taking down the wards, it's like, because they told me to. So was that Jack Barlow's dream? And then she's also had a dream that I think Zayden's also having these nightmares. There's one of them that she has that seems like it could belong to somebody else. And I think there is one other dream that seems like it's definitely for her. But I thought it was weird about taking down the wards. Unless that was somehow she was still responsible for it because he planted the idea in her head. It seemed like it was Jack Barlow's mission the whole time.
I know there's the one dream where like it was like the sage was coming for her.
Yeah. And the sage wanted both her and Zayden. I think
Yeah.
they're individually wanted.
Yeah.
But I could have sworn there was a dream about her taking down the wards.
Sage was saying like, I'll make you do it over something stupid like love, and you'll get those words down for me. But he never was specifically saying like, you'll take them down for him to like reference Zayden, or for her to reference Violet.
So for our next bubble break, we're going to be enjoying Violet's favorite drink, lavender lemonade.
Ooh.
Yeah, I was really excited to get this vodka. It's like a mammoth lavender vodka.
It's pretty good.
I had it at Bonobo. They do a lavender lemonade, and it's literally my favorite drink. And I can only get it when I go on a wine tour, so I don't get to have it very often. So I'm really worried that it's overhyped in my head, but I hope you guys all like it.
Okay, I'll try it.
Cheers!
Oh, she's tasty.
It's not overhyped.
It's really good.
It's good.
It's like a gentle vodka.
Yeah, that's what I like. It's just like a little kiss of lavender.
Oh, this is delightful. I'd get, what did she say? She said not slosh, but pleasantly slouged or something in one of the books. Like I would,
puzzled.
yeah, I would get like that on this.
Yeah, me too. I like lemonade.
So we're gonna get into Violet's second signet while we're enjoying Violet's favorite drink. We got a little bit into the dream walking idea a little while ago about if that might be her second signet. But I don't think that we've actually seen that show up as like a known signet
Yeah, like
in
an
the
option.
book. Yeah, which is what makes me think it's not that. That's what made me so suspicious about like the whole like Venom consciousness. But I really like the idea of it. He says that she's been hinting at it the whole time and she thinks it's obvious. And that is one new thing that's been introduced that wasn't happening before. Granted, she also hadn't been through like that trauma yet.
So I don't know if I'm fully sold on the like truth sayer thing of it, but a little bit because of all the truth, like if she asked the right questions and the way that she's able to communicate with the dragons, there's something there too. Because she went to, I think it was General Melgan's dragon and was like, you have to help. And then she jumped on the back of someone else's dragon, which is like a no-no apparently. Like you don't interact with other people's dragons. So I don't know if it's something with that as well. I could see that as an option. But they kept saying that like the truth sayers were the only type of inistics that they let survive.
Yes, it says the only signet more terrifying than an intrinsic is a truth sayer, and yet we let them live.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that we meet a truth sayer when they're in the interrogation chamber. And this is the part that makes it where it's hard for me to believe that she's a truth sayer because I don't believe that she ever really calls out anybody for lying or like notices anybody lying.
Yeah.
She reads emotions on people often. The other issue I have with thinking about Violet's second signet in general is, can she actually wield while Indarna is in the dreamless sleep? Because that makes a big difference in terms of whenever it manifests and what clues we're looking for.
Right.
So I was really curious about that. If we're taking the dreamless sleep out of it entirely, she's doing the whole reading people's emotions while they're talking, like there's fear in his eyes, or is that this, or is that that? Do I sense someone being malicious? So it seemed like she was almost kind of doing what Xaden does.
Yeah, it's like almost she's getting like an after effect of his.
It made me wonder if she was a truth sayer with that, but she was also able to get the truth out of Xaden.
With Violet with the truth sayer, it's kind of like the quote that Bethany had about them being like the scariest type of mystic, but you let them live. But I'm not fully convinced that she's a truth sayer yet either. That's the only reason why I was kind of thinking maybe he knows how to like circumvent her signet a little bit.
He does make a point of telling her that he's never lied to her.
Yeah, she just hasn't asked the right questions.
Yeah, that quote, I mean, I don't want her to be a truth sayer. I feel like that's like
I
kind
know,
of a
that's where
lame
I'm
second
at.
signet.
Yeah.
But it does make sense because there's the quote that Xaden says, I'll tell you anything if you just ask the right questions. Which, that's one. And then there's also in the bonus chapter, he says that lying is easy except when it comes to Violet. I haven't quite figured that one out yet. I feel like those two quotes,
Yeah,
I don't want
agree.
it to be, but
I don't want it to
know.
be that either.
Why not? Why don't you? I guess I'm
I
curious.
think it's
Because
not cool enough.
It's not cool enough.
I
We
agree.
also
Okay.
already have Xaden who can basically do the same thing.
Intrinsic is so much cooler.
I
than
feel like
that.
knowing someone's
Yeah.
intention versus knowing whether or not someone's lying about what they're saying is almost like more powerful. I just don't think it's that exciting, and
I
I
don't
think it's
either.
too obvious. And I know that she says she thinks it's obvious, which is
Yeah.
why it makes me think that's what it is.
Or she could be completely throwing us all for a loop.
She did say that she thinks there's this one thing in the book that everybody would know if they pay attention to like this one sentence. So I'm always looking for that with all the second signet theories of like what would that one thing be that was like too obvious. But
I
don't
was
know,
trying to
those-
find that interview so that I could like see exactly what she said, which makes it even worse because it makes it that sentence with Violet being a truth sayer. You found the sentence.
I feel like there's a sentence. There's at least one other second signet option that there is another.
What other option do you think it would be for your other sentence then?
I don't know.
I don't have another sentence, but I think it's something with the dragons. It could be.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too.
Right,
Yeah.
something with dragon communication, manipulation, understandings. Because that's why it's kind of the same thing of like with Taryn and Andarna being like, that's why we chose you. Because they knew she would have the possibility maybe for this power, and they knew she wouldn't abuse it. Like she wouldn't try to control the dragons with it like Varish would, for example.
Yeah, but the signet says more about the rider than the dragon.
Yeah, but I also feel like the dragons aren't truthful with everything that they let across. So I feel like they have to know
And it says that like the signets like reflect like something
their bond.
like you need, like your
Yeah.
bond and like who you are as a person. But that's why I'm curious, could her second signet have manifested when Darna was sleeping?
right.
I almost just want to hope she didn't. I want it
Right.
to be like something
Because it could
else.
be a thing like the Feathertails. They're who knows how the bonds with them go. Because
Yeah.
they don't bond.
Yeah.
So we can't judge it based off of all the stuff we know about the other dragons and
And-
their riders.
And there's so much like lore behind
Mhm.
them in general. So it's
Yeah.
like, okay, this is like
Mhm.
the one we have.
and then
Something's
Darna waited. She was left behind and she waited to be born.
I think that when I was reading the part in Iron Flame, like all the way towards the end, where it was talking about how the signet's going to like reflect the bond and what you need most in that time, when now because Xaden is Venom.
she's trying to
okay.
save Ven-
So like,
Gotcha.
is she going to try? Because it was also saying with the dragons how their seventh dragon was cured of something.
Like the Count
Oh, the-
Count Takaris.
Yes.
Takaris. So when he's like, I can offer you what you've always wanted, and what you want is peace. If she is somehow able to cure Venom, that would present an option for peace.
Yeah. And that would also be like, you know, a sentence that was in the book that talked about like what she really wants deep down. Piggybacking off your idea, one of the other theories that I'd thrown around was like that maybe she could have been some kind of intrinsic where it's like she has the power to control. And they talk about her wielding other people. And that's the key to curing the vet. Like there's no cure, there's only control. So maybe she'll have this ability to manipulate the venom in a way that nobody else can to defeat them.
Maybe that's why she gets along with the dragons the way she does.
When it comes to the dragon thing, I personally don't think it's related to a signet.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's because no one's ever done it before and it's a rule doesn't
Yeah.
mean it can't be broken.
True.
And Taryn's already broken the rules for her before when he shared his memories with everybody.
yeah.
I think that Violet's just saying, no, screw this. Things need to get done. I have a secret that I can't share with you. I will risk my life to do this right now. And she's just fully taking it on. And I think the dragons respect her for it because they know that she's got her heart in the right place. She's
Right.
also Taryn's rider. Who's going to mess with her?
Fair.
True.
So I
Very
I
fair.
don't think it's signet related for that reason. I think she's just like, no.
This is what it's going to be?
Yeah, I think she's just like, I need to do this thing, so I'm going to do it now.
Right.
I don't think she really gives a fuck about the rules.
That's true.
Bethany, you have another sentence that you think is
I feel like this one isn't as big, but it supports my favorite theory, so I like to buy into it. But my favorite theory for a signet is distance wielder.
ooh.
I don't know if you guys have like looked into that one.
A little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah. So basically, distance wielder, it said that they can like go, I don't know the amount, but like, hundreds of miles or something in like single step. And there's lots of like, tiny things that happen in the book that like could suggest that. There's multiple instances where she and Taryn are making trips in a fraction of the time that they have before, and they've mentioned that like they went so
Oh.
fast.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And she probably thought that was because of Taryn. Okay.
There's also a scene where she is running, and it says that she is running past everyone with her feet barely touching the floor, which is interesting. And then at the end of the book, she is running to get to the Wardstone, and there was somebody who commented, "I've never seen anyone move that fast."
Yeah, I
And I
remember
feel like
that.
that's my
Oh,
sentence that I
and-
like to hold
and
on
she's
to.
always been told that she was fast.
Yeah.
Like deadly
Yeah,
fast.
Or is she
That's
just
lightning
venom?
fast.
Yeah.
Or is she just vented?
Because venom be quick.
That's true too.
But I really
I
like
like
that
that one.
idea
Yeah,
a
I
lot.
like that
no,
too, yeah.
that one's
I
really
like
fun.
that.
It also makes you wonder, is she wielding in her sleep? Is she just going and meeting up with the sage in her dreams?
Is it a dream or is it real?
Right.
I don't know. I'm still not fully convinced that Violet's a full venom. I think that she's influenced by it, but I don't think she's.
I
like,
think she's a
full.
venom and she just doesn't know. She's lived within the wards her entire life. She's never actually channeled. I don't think she has any clue what she is, but Taryn knows who and what she is.
That's fair.
I
It's a
do
fun
love that
theory.
quote.
I like that quote.
It's fact. It's fact until
Yeah,
proven.
I like that.
For me, in my heart, it's fact, and I will take the L when it comes to Onyx Storm if it doesn't end up being true, or if we don't find out till later. I don't know,
Wait,
but
Distance wielder.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on that?
I like
Oh, no,
I like
I like
it. I love it. Yeah.
That's what I hope it is. I feel like it'd be a really cool one.
I
I
like
think
that
so
you
too.
have evidence as well. I didn't know the whole thing about her saying, like, if there's one sentence that if you pay attention to, I didn't know this,
She
and I
said
wish I would have
She said there's a
looked.
specific thing that she thought might just be a pure spoiler that's an Iron Flame. So that's why I was
But she's
like,
also the author.
yeah, so she was like, she didn't know if it would be so obvious. So obviously it wasn't, because everybody has different theories
Yeah.
of what it could be. But that's why I'm like, each signet, I'm like, is there a specific thing that could be like a spoiler for that? I don't know.
Distance wielder is cool, and they did only mention it one other time too, where they're like, there hasn't been one of those in like 100 years.
Yeah.
There hasn't been a lightning wielder
Yeah.
in like 100 years.
Oh,
Is
that's
she okay? Wait, back up.
Get it
Could
up.
she just be? They said something for family lines. Like, this is just an off the wall thought right now, but like, could she just be a descendant of one of the like the first guy?
Yeah, they,
Like
they
the
think that.
original
I've seen that they
six.
that Xaden, Violet, and then
I think Auric is too.
Yeah.
I've seen something
Yeah.
about theories with the eyes too. In terms of signets, like, and if that's something that like that would be more support for your other idea that like she's got a way to cure the venom, and maybe she does something with that control. I think that's a great idea. The other one that I thought about too was I thought she might be an amplifier.
I was just going to bring that one up.
I don't know. Maybe it is just that she's an amplifier, but it seems like it sticks with them after. So she seems to have the power to just like,
give you a boost.
but it's not just a boost because then they keep it. So there's a few instances where I think this happens. One, when Rhiannon's able to get the dagger through the wall.
Yes,
Mhm.
100%.
Yep.
I think that's like one of the first times that it happens. Mira ends up being able to wield her ward
Yep.
way beyond the wards.
Oh yeah.
And it does give her the excerpt about like, you know, she can do that under extreme emotional distress. But she was really far from the wards, and she talks about her signet not even working around, like when she's too far from the wards at all.
Yeah.
So that part makes it just like different to me. And when she's telling her mom, when they're going into that like final battle, if you will, in Iron Flame, she's like, I should be with you because I produce wards now.
Yeah.
It wasn't a one-time thing. Like, now she can just do it. And that's also where it's like, Rhiannon also have the ability to push power into people. But with Rhiannon, she was under the wards, so that's what makes me lean more towards like that being a signet.
So another one is Brennan said like he can't mend magic, or like it was extremely
I didn't even
difficult
think
to
of
mend
that
magic.
part.
And he did mend the wardstone.
I think that could be fun for book 3 too, because I feel like if she is an amplifier, that could be a way that she could potentially heal Xaden, because she could work with Brennan and like amplify his mending to potentially like do that.
Love that.
That'd be really cool.
That's my favorite one. The
Mine
thing
too.
that really got me with it, though, is I wasn't convinced that she could wield while Andarna was in the dreamless sleep. And that really changes a lot of the answers for a lot of different things.
Well,
so it's never been addressed, I don't think, with Rebecca.
Darna's dreamless sleep wasn't normal.
No, it was way longer than usual.
And she kept
maybe
waking
it's
up.
because she was wielding. I kept looking, though, to see if it was like during those times when she'd wake up, if it was when she was like doing the amplifying, because I was
Yeah.
really, really convinced that's what it was.
Well, for sure when Brennan does the ward, she's awake.
Yeah, she's awake for that, but she's asleep, I think, when Rhiannon and the dagger happens, because I remember being really upset when I did my reread and being like, oh, no. But I don't think I've heard Rebecca say she can't. It's just one of those things that I chose to think about, and it ruined everything for me while I was reading.
You thought too hard about
I
it.
thought way too hard about this.
I think it's possible those things could be just part of her first signet, though, because at first we thought it was just lightning, like wielding.
Yeah.
We end up discovering that it's like a pure power
It's
signet.
energy.
So
Yeah.
like she could just be using that potentially to like give her energy
Ooh.
into that person, and maybe that's just all part of her first signet and not related to the second.
That would be
That's
so cool.
Yeah,
That would be.
If we can get that and a distance wielder, please don't make her a truesayer.
One theory that I'm not going for, but one that I've thought about as we were talking with Onyx Storm, is because we don't understand a lot about the Venom yet. I do predict some angst with Xaden. He's like, you have to kill me. I think that's going to be a few chapters where he's just like, you have to kill me. Violet's like, no, I'm not going to kill you. We're going to figure something else out. And they might discover
You mean
something.
their poor communication will continue into the third book?
They have something new to fight about.
Oh my goodness.
I just could see him just getting all angsty and in his head. He's like, oh, I'm too dangerous. You got to kill me. I feel like we're going to understand more about the Venom, hopefully, in the third book. I don't know if Violet's definitely going to be like a cure for the Venom, but I think she might be able to understand it more. Because I don't know if it's a thing like it's a sickness. I think it's a misuse of power.
Yeah, they're always talking about how nature needs to be in balance. Maybe she's the balance. She's a piece that, she
Maybe.
can bring all the pieces back together.
Yeah, because that's why I think it's almost something like he went too far, but you can choose to not go too far again. Instead of choosing to continue to take more power.
Yeah.
I
For
feel
sure.
like we were talking about our first signet being pure power.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Going back.
It doesn't make sense to me about being an amplifier, because I don't think an amplifier is exactly it. She's some kind of intrinsic where she has the ability to literally control their signets now or put power into them, but she can't wield within the wards, so that makes so much sense, and I really hope that's what it is.
It does mention how Violet specifically says that she feels Xaden's power brush up against hers. And so this theory is kind of hinting at that perhaps the way the bond works is maybe they're able to share their signet somehow.
Oh.
And maybe
I
that's
believe that.
how her power is like brushing up against his. She can feel his power, and then she's able to see his. I mean, we're gonna get into the smut for a little bit, but like in the throne room scene, if you will.
I thought about that one too.
So the thought is that she's seen his intentions in that moment, and so we know that that is Xaden's second signet.
Yeah.
So perhaps they're sharing the signet, and she's able to use like brush up with his power and use his signet to see his intentions in that moment. I will say he does say, fuck, I shouldn't have done that. So there's some thought that maybe he had some control in that too. It's an interesting theory.
I was thinking about that when we were talking about it earlier. It's like maybe they sort of like influence each other's signets a little bit. Like you can borrow a little bit of power.
But the only thing I got to add to like that same throne room scene and all
Yeah.
of that, he does make the comment about like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. And she also says a black shimmer wraps around my mind, not I go towards. It seemed like he did something to her. So I do
Yeah.
think it was his choice in the moment.
And they can show each other memories. Because I remember he plopped in memories to her before. Like
yeah,
during
when she was doing her training.
They have a mind link, basically.
They
Yeah.
have a bond. I feel like that's how she was able to get into his head, is like he let her into his head through that.
Yeah.
I can't remember what she said about that, but she like at some point, she didn't like debunk that theory, but she at some point I think talked about why she wrote that scene, and it was more like bond and
Yeah.
that kind of
Show,
thing.
like-
So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like, hey, I'm not lying to you anymore. Here's my true feelings.
It almost makes sense too with the way that she talks about reading people and what she's seeing on their faces or in their eyes when they're talking, because she's not actually reading anyone's intention completely or feeling like she's doing anything, but she's like, is that fear in their eyes? Are they looking at me with malice and like this and that?
Right.
So maybe that's a little bit of bleed over from Xaden's signet.
I don't
Or
know.
it could just be Xaden's influence as well.
So I want it to be distant wielder. Maybe we can end with just saying which one we want it to be. Like which theory do you buy into the
I'm
most?
100% down for the distance wielder if the other
Yes.
one is like just her signets amplified. But
Agreed.
I love the idea of her basically being able to level everybody up.
Yeah, I do think amplifying is my favorite, but I do really love the distance wielding. That's
I want
so
both.
fun.
I do too,
yeah.
and that's why I like that.
I
Amplify
love that
could
idea.
Be part of our first signet. That's
Yeah,
Yes.
I love that theory. That's my favorite theory.
Yeah.
Is that it's
I'm
all.
gonna go home happy.
I think the dream walking one could be interesting for
Yeah.
the third book, specifically because now like we're being introduced to like Venom and who's gonna be Venom, so I think that could make things interesting. So I don't know, a little part of me is kind of pulling for that one, but
I do like it.
I do like it too.
I'm pulling a little bit for it. I mean, we're getting a little bit of sprinkles in it. I'm not rooting for it or anything pushing me towards that one. I'm just like, oh, I would like to see where that one
It's
goes.
interesting.
It is.
I don't know. I really don't know. This is the most in-depth I've ever gotten with a book. I normally read just to read.
Just
I don't
relax
normally
and
get
move on.
into like theories and all this stuff. Like, I'll listen to theories online. This is the first time I've really thought about it. I know everyone kind of on the truth sayer, and I'm like, it depends on how she writes it. It depends on how it
That's true.
impacts
Yeah.
the story. I like the amplifier, I think,
yeah.
because that makes it sense with her character.
It does.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she wants to protect her people. That's how she's doing it. She's leveling them all up.
And she wants to give everyone a choice too, which is like she's just giving them the opportunity to try their power more.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
Gosh.
just being greedy by wanting them both. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know. The amplifier could work.
No.
And we could have distance wielding, and I'll just be a happy camper. So the drink I prepared doesn't really go with what we're talking about next. It goes with forever ago when we were talking about Jack Barlow, but this is the Death of Jack Barlow shot. This contains
Yes!
orange, raspberry, and the blood of Jack Barlow. So
The
blood of
my
enemies.
I had to like
That was delicious.
lovely.
I love that.
that was so good.
That was very good.
Thanks, Jack Barlow.
So the death of Jack Barlow was very satisfying.
I was so pissed when he came back the second book.
Yeah,
I
and
was
then-
so mad.
I
You
was
know-
too.
So angry.
And you think that he's going to die because he goes to kill his dragon, and he just doesn't.
And you're like, what the
yeah, well, because there's something going on with, you know, the venom in their dragons, and that gets us into like the whole orange dragon theory. And we were talking about it a little bit earlier when we were like identifying our venom and everything. And basically, everyone with an orange dragon is a little sus.
Yeah.
And I think it's a little, I don't know if you guys picked up on this, but like Imogen also has an orange dragon.
Yeah, I remember
And
that.
Varish also
Yes.
makes a comment
Yes.
during the interrogation about Imogen is not going to help wipe the memories. I think it's really weird that they brought that up during that time, because why even bring up Imogen like at all? It seemed unnecessary unless that's an Easter egg for her helping leadership in some kind of way with wiping memories. So I don't know what she's been manipulated to do, but we need to remember that Varish knows everybody's deepest weakness. And I think that she's still totally susceptible doing their bidding. And I
Yeah.
don't know what she's been up to, but like the whole orange dragon theory, it makes me even more suspicious of her.
But then also, I guess, stinky breath dragon theory
Yeah.
with Dane's
Stinky
dragon.
breath.
Right.
With Kath. Because, you know, are the dragons being poisoned somehow? Are they eating something bad? Like, are there flocks of sheep being
Are
poisoned?
their bonds rotting?
I was gonna
Yeah.
say, does it poison the bond?
Anyone can become venom. It's just a choice. The only reason that I bring it up is just because, like, when I was going into the orange dragon theory, it just didn't occur to me that she had an orange. And I was like, okay, she has an orange dragon too. And that's the only other time that's come up. So I don't necessarily think she's venom,
Yeah.
but I just thought that that was interesting and kind of goes with the venom. So I don't know what's going on there. But the orange dragons seem to just be the most easily manipulated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like with Jack Barlow, you know, they talk about beware of strong riders bonding smaller dragons and that influence they have over them.
Right.
Like, is it just that the orange dragons are more easily influenced? Or is it that orange dragons just don't know how to pick with the orange dragon theory? I feel like it's one of those things that like I'm paying attention to, but I don't know if it's fully fleshed out, because I think that Kath with her stinky breath, it kind of throws things off with that a little bit. And then, you know, also Imogen having an orange dragon, I have a really hard time believing that she's venom. So I don't necessarily think that it means that if you have an orange dragon that you're venom,
Yeah.
but I
Sure.
do think there's just something to be said for like how they're choosing to bond and like what's going on with their interactions. Like,
Correlation, not causation.
yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know, but I'm excited to see, you know, what we learn about these people that we're like suspicious of with the
I
orange
agree.
dragons moving forward. In terms of dragons and everything, we're dealing with the Empyrean, right? And that's the name of the entire series. I think there's something to be said for everything going on like within the Empyrean, and I'm starting to wonder the way that they left in Iron Flame. When they come back, Terran says that he's alerted the Empyrean that they're on their way. Are they no longer a part of the Empyrean when they leave?
I don't necessarily think so.
Yeah, I don't think that. I just think that's like the Empyreans, maybe like the elders that stay in the Vale.
I see where you're going with it.
Yeah.
The reason that I say it is because, you know, Sigil kind of plays to her own rules. And we know that she's kind of like, they say like she doesn't necessarily follow like dragon law. Like she bonded a rider of, you know,
A descendant.
yes.
Yep.
She just does her own thing the whole time.
Right.
And she's the strongest of the blues. And the fact that she bonded Xaden, I think there's something going on with whatever happened there with her previous rider being his grandfather. Because they go into so much and so little with that at the same time.
Yeah.
We know that the grandfather never made it out.
Which I have to know, how old was he when he was having babies? How does the math work in here?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, but did he actually die in the Rider's Quadrant? Because I have a hard time believing that was necessarily the case because of that. It's like, did he have kids before he even went in? Or
Because they go in at 20.
Right. I mean, technically it could happen. The writer on record was his great uncle. So, like, I feel like there's just something weird going on there. And I wonder if the reason that Sigil, like, has this soft spot for everything and seems to be kind of, like, heading up what's going on and working on a lot of stuff in the, like, we caught that in Xaden's bonus chapters, too.
Yeah.
Like, her influence with everything, Violet and Xaden, it makes me think that she knows way more and something happened way further back with the grandfather. Like, pre-rebellion.
Oh, for sure.
I feel like she's kind of leading the revolution of the dragons and taking them on.
I think so.
Because the Empyrean, that's what makes me wonder, like, are they still technically part of the Empyrean? Whole dedication has been to protecting the hatchling grounds and, you know, protecting Navarre. Like, they're on the same side with, you know, the leaders at Biscayath.
Not really, though, because Dragonkind was divided on what the correct course of action was.
That's where I'm saying, like, then is it basically like a rebellion and the dragons are going through the same thing that Biscayath did? And now they have their own hatchling grounds.
I was gonna say-
It's so interesting.
I wish I knew the quote better, but I do know some dragons do descend from the hatchling grounds at
Arisha?
Arisha. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
You knew I was
Is it
going to
Arisha
struggle with
or
that name.
Arisha?
And I can't remember if it was the blues or not. I thought it was the blacks.
It's the black dragons.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And there's been another theory that's thrown around about descendants and the hatchling grounds and the color of their eyes. Like, Xaden's eyes are black. He's from, you know, Tyrion to Arisha. And he would be the rightful king. He's the royal blood there. And then we've got Arik, who's got green eyes.
Yeah.
He's from, you know,
Navarre.
And they've
the capital
got
of Navarre.
exactly, and they've got the Green Dragon's hatchling grounds.
Yeah.
We have 6 provinces.
Ooh.
Yeah,
I see where you're going.
Like each
Yeah.
dragon breed.
I saw
comes from a
this on
different
that like
province.
Empyrean like website, and I was just like, whoa, there's so much going on that we're not thinking about. And that makes me think more about Violet, and she's got blue eyes.
She's got blue eyes that also struggle to be amber.
Is it because she's feminine? Amber's another word for red. It makes me wonder if that has something to do with the bloodlines and Sigil being a blue and everything there. Like, I don't know exactly how it's all going to play out, but like, I think something with the first 6, the eye color, I think is maybe significant.
Right. One thing that Taryn said a lot is that dragons don't follow the same rules that humans do for their governing and all their stuff like that. So there could be totally different war kind of going on.
There's so much to be said for whatever's going on with the dragons and their lore and the elders. And we know that Daddy Sorengale was spending a lot of time with the elders.
And researching feather tails.
And we also know that Violet knows where the research is. It's mentioned like one time and we never go back. My wild theory with this, like, her dad's always saying, like, pay attention to who's writing the story. Pay attention to who's writing the story. Like,
Who's writing this story?
I think that Daddy Sorengale is like the scribe for the dragons.
Oh. I thought you were going to say something about...
Jacinia.
Yes, thank you. I was like, I always want to say Janessa, but that's not her name. Because she writes Fourth Wing.
Yeah.
He's the scribe.
Yeah, but anyway, keep going where you're going. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, like, wonder what exactly was he doing? Because he was talking with the elders, and that implies that he's getting, like, secret dragon knowledge. And they know him. They trust him. They're talking about Violet, like his sick daughter, this and that.
Yeah.
And we know that Andarna overhears the elders talking to Daddy Sorengale.
Right.
There's been a lot of, you know, discrepancies in terms of the timeline for when he dies and when Andarna hatches. He was 100% alive. They make a comment about him passing away, I think, in the spring, and she chose to hatch in the summer. And I wish I had the pages of the book, because, like, I noticed it, like, everything that I see says, like, a couple years ago, but they say, like, spring to summers ago.
Yeah.
So he dies in the spring, and Darna hatches in the summer. Obviously, he went and talked to them prior to that, and Darna then hears the elders talking about the general's sickling daughter and this and that, and that's why she chose to hatch. But I feel like his business there was that he was recording the truth with the Empyrean.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what she's after with the truth. Maybe she needs to find Dad's research. I don't know.
How did the dragons talk to him?
They don't follow the rules.
I don't think it's that big of a deal.
I'm
I
just
don't know.
curious.
That's a good point. But like,
I'm curious, is like, do you think a dragon would talk to a scribe?
I think
Yeah.
so. It's the only thing that makes sense. And just knowing that he was doing that research and everything, like, I feel like it's just one of those things I accepted and didn't.
Think about it too hard.
I didn't think about it too hard, but I feel like he could be the scribe for the dragons. And what if his research is called like the Empyrean?
Yeah.
Like he's writing the history the way that it was, meant to be told. And
That would be interesting.
it makes me wonder what's going to happen to Taryn. We're not sure if he's going to make it through the entire series. It's heavily implied that he's going to die. She's managed to bond 2 dragons. In theory, that's going to save her life when it comes time.
Yeah.
And Darna can't carry a rider. Does Violet become the scribe kind of for the dragons as a rider and a scribe?
Right.
Like if she's just kind of like fulfilling her dad's legacy. But I think that something was going on there. I'm just so excited to see what we learn more about his research and everything.
I will say, I did love the part with Andarna being like, I just want to be him so much.
I love that too.
Yeah, with Taryn. Like, that's why she chose to have black scales.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was. I read that and I was like, "You go, girl."
But at the same time, she was being a little snot. I am nobody's miniature. Let me just bite Riddick's head off.
Yeah, right. I did think that. I was like, "Damn, girl."
Oh, I know. It was so aggressive.
They all seem to like really love and appreciate and cherish this bond that they have with their dragons. So it is interesting that you're saying like the dragons are mutually using each other, because in some ways it seems like maybe the dragons are using the people more than the people are.
So speaking of that bond, though, with Zayden now being Venom, what do we think is going to happen with his bond? Because I know they can keep their bond with their dragon, but it does decay over time. What do you guys think is going to happen with that?
I know that they make the comment about Bade's eyes being like basically glossed over before Jack kills Bade.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something I'm going to be paying very close attention to, is how her eyes look.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it was a choice for him to manipulate his dragon. Like, it was Varish who said, some of us actually control our dragons or influence them.
Yeah.
And I don't think that Zayden would ever do that to Sigale.
So we don't think there's going to be a Sigale Taryn fight scene.
No, I don't.
Ooh, that would be like so cool. But I
That
hope
would be really
not.
cool.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Then again,
Zayden-
he also lets down all the women in his life.
He
Yes.
did say that.
But like, Zayden's also an angsty boy.
Yeah.
is he?
He is.
He is.
Sigale knew what he was doing, though. And she's like, no, don't choose this kind of thing. She could have just killed him. She could have just burnt him to a crisp right then and there. But she didn't.
Zayden seems to be the only one that can die like through the whole bond without really affecting anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Sigale is like ruthless and like noted as ruthless. So I don't think it would be far fetched that she could survive Zayden's death.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Especially if she felt betrayed.
Oh yeah.
Especially if, like, in the bond's already like tainted. So
Yeah.
I don't know how
But-
that'll go.
Is the bond tainted? Is, 'cause
I think it's
I think this-
tainted in
I
a way
think-
that he has the ability to now try to do this. And
Yeah.
it's a choice on whether or not he's going to. I
Yeah.
think that it's just the fact that he has the option.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also feel like there is some betrayal probably coming from Sigale, because even in the last chapter from Zayden's POV, he says like Sigale's been eerily silent since. So I do feel like that is
She shut him out.
Yeah, even if it's not the bond's tainted necessarily, she is angry or
Yeah.
she's hurt or there's emotions there that
Right.
are,
Especially if Nowlin, Taryn's old rider, did the same thing.
When we talk about, the grandfather not making it through,
Mm-hmm.
I do wonder if he turned, if she broke the bond or if he broke the bond or something happened there. I think that grandfather is another really good option for a general for the Venom.
yeah.
And if that's like sparked, the Gale to be like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm doing my own thing. And I just think it's really weird that they left it so open. The only
Yeah.
other thing that I can think of that could have maybe happened to him is they talk about, like, when they're doing the interrogation and everything, like, what happens if you fail? They're like, you don't want to know. It implies that they're going to kill them,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't really say.
Yeah.
So it's like, maybe he failed interrogation. What happened there?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Was he Venom?
They make you become Venom if you fail.
Not that they would make, but maybe they find out. I don't know. Maybe he failed interrogation because he was Venom. I don't know. There could be something there, but Grandpa's really interesting.
Yeah. Something I
Interesting.
did find interesting with the Feathertails too I didn't really think about this too much until recently, but do we think that all feather tails are gold, or do we just think that Andarna is the only golden
I think
feather tail?
all of them were gold. They always start out gold.
That's how they made it sound because Taryn does not know. And Violet told them to go catch up, right? Because he doesn't know about her being a 7th breed. He thinks Kodag is the...
Yeah.
or Coda... How do you
Yeah.
say that?
Coda.
I always said Coda.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he thinks that he's the elder of her den and everything. So I think it makes sense that they're all gold because he didn't think about it. Unless Taryn knew and he was just really doubling down on the lie.
I don't think so.
He was like
No.
gaslight,
I
girl
don't think
boss,
so.
gatekeep.
Yeah.
I think they're all gold. They have little fluffy paws and stuff like that, and then they choose their color
Yeah.
as they go through their
That's
sleeve.
what I understood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even Darna, though, I feel like, I don't know if anyone else has thought this. There's probably nothing to this, but the timeline is interesting where 600 years ago or somewhere in there, they were able to defeat the Venom, and they've been looking for that weapon ever since.
Oh, it's her.
She was just shy. She didn't want to come out.
She
was
knew she had to
waiting
wait.
for Violet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder with the 7th breed and everything, like, it's got to be that they're in the Isle Kingdom somewhere, right? Like, I don't know where else they could be, or do we really think that she's the last one?
I could believe she was the last one, or like the first of the last to hatch.
Maybe.
But they said she was left behind, which makes me think she's not the last one.
yeah.
Right? Like they left her in the spot where she would be
Yeah.
needed.
That maybe they left her behind to go into this big war, and maybe they were just like, "Yep, we're all gonna die. You need to stay behind and
You'll
fire
be-
up the ward stone."
Right.
But it makes you think a lot more about like hatchling grounds and everything too, because it seems like there's a ward stone at each of the hatchling grounds. So clearly, magic is more powerful there. And we have like 4 other provinces that we haven't really discovered that much with. So I like to
Yeah.
think that we're going to be able to ward everything at some point.
Right.
And that's the idea. And Andarna can only use her power once. Navarre basically comes like jail for Venom. There's got to be the ability to make more ward stones and like protect everybody.
Because that was a big thing that they're like, Violet kept saying they're not going to have destroyed that knowledge.
Right.
They have hidden it, not destroyed it.
And we also know that with the first 6. Also, just saying the first 6 irritates me because what happened to the 7th rider? Like, if there was 7 breeds of dragon, or have these other dragons always been riderless? Is that why Andarna's riderless? Like,
Mhm.
and why she had 2 dragons? I don't know. But it's interesting to think about whatever might have happened with this potential 7th rider. But everything says the first 6. Like, in
Yeah.
Lyra's journal, it didn't say anything about the first 7. It still said the first 6, but the word 7 was different for the wardstone instructions or
Right.
whatever.
Mhm.
So they thought he was lying and she was telling the truth, but
They
was
were like, it just takes whoever writes history to hide things.
Right. And
Right.
that's where it's like we know that
What do
Lyra
we trust?
believed that like the truth should be shared with everyone should be safe, this and that. Makes me think that maybe that's Violet's descendant, Lyra. Or something. Yeah, we know that we've got this 7th breed of dragon that is potentially going to be able to help take out the Venom. And I like to think that there's more of them out there and we're going to find them in the Isle Kingdoms, but I'm really not sure. There's a lot about the Isle Kingdoms that we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like even when she was with Viscount Dakaris, that he was like, oh yeah, go to an island kingdom and just live in peace. Why else would that be an option if they didn't have these weapons against the Venom? And also, what does Andarna do that's so special that the other dragons can't?
I think we got some interesting little nuggets and like theories and fun little tangents and stuff. But I think at the heart of it, we're all just really excited for Onyx Storm to come out. I know I'm personally taking the day off, and the next day I would just take the whole week off. I know I'm a slow reader, so like
It should just be a holiday.
this
It
is
should
the
be.
book talk community Super Bowl.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it is.
absolutely.
I want to read it like first day
Yes.
just so I don't get
Yeah.
spoilers.
Yeah.
I'm going to be in full lockdown.
Yeah. So January 21st.
Yes,
January
I hope it's
21st.
everything we're all hoping for.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
me
all of
too.
our
Super
favorite theories are
excited.
correct.
Yes. And it was
I-
so fun to talk about everything too. Just like
Yeah.
before reading, it makes me so much more excited to
Same.
read the book.
I'm-
Me
Oh,
too.
yeah.
And like
Yeah.
after talking with all of you guys, I feel like I'm gonna be super gross and read them both again.
Like
I'm
literally,
down.
I totally am. I'm like, oh, we talked about so many good things. Now I gotta go read again and see if I see what they're talking about.
We got together and like got a chance to actually talk about all the theories and everything before the next book comes out. I'm really excited to see what we got right and what we got wrong and what all the
Yeah.
other stuff that we learned.
Me too.
Yeah, Violet.
Yeah, and we're really glad that you joined us too. Like,
Yeah.
thank you for
Thank you
listening
so
to
Yes.
us. It was a lot of fun for us. We hope you had a good time too. But let us know, what are your theories? What are you looking forward to with Onyx Storm? And what stupid stuff did we say? And why are we wrong? Let us know.
Yeah, like, is Violet,
Is Violet
a Venom?
I mean, I don't think that was the stupid thing that was said. I'm pretty sure that was a fact.
We know how you feel. I'm curious to see what internet has to say.
Me too.
I'm ready to get absolutely smoked. It's fine. Yeah.
But yeah.
With peace and love.
I love
I love it. Till next
Yes.
time. Bye.
Yeah.